The CFPB was a response to the 2008 financial crisis.
Shutting it down is an attempt to loosen financial regulations.
Mortgages that were setting people up to fail, and it crashed the economy.
I feel terrible for the Americans, but it's one person, it's President Trump, that's creating this chaos.
The CFPB is there to make sure that Elon's new project can't scam you or steal your sensitive personal data.
And I really think defunding this type of oversight is just begging for another financial crisis.
We have effectively eliminated the U.S. Agency for International Development, which was funding much of this lunacy. We virtually shut down the out-of-control CFPB, escorting radical left bureaucrats out of the building and locking the doors behind them.
The Trump administration is back at it again and wreaking all kinds of havoc, potentially ruining many people's lives. At least that's the rumor. As it pertains to the CFPB being potentially dismantled, shaken up, or turned upside down, a lot of people are quite fearful over what this is going to mean for everyday consumers and the housing market, specifically here in San Francisco. Now, this is a really important topic and something that I think is going to have a major ripple effect through not just housing, but just overall consumer trends, costs, and ultimately impacting the whole United States economy. So I want to get into what these shakeups would actually mean and talk about two potential positive things that could come from this, two potential negative things that could come from this, and also why there's already some existing bodies or boards that are already in place doing the job of what the CFPB was kind of there as just an additional layer. So we will get into that and how it impacts the overall housing market here in San Francisco. But first, if you would do me a huge favor and honor by liking this video and subscribing to my channel, it would mean the world because it helps me reach more people like you with information and content like this. More people that are following us, more people we can reach and help and impact in a positive way. My name is Arjun and I've been in the mortgage industry for about 25 years, helping thousands of families, investors, and individuals take part in participating in the San Francisco or overall Bay Area real estate market, which is a tough one. But if we can be of any help to you and your family, please don't hesitate to reach out, whether you're looking to buy in this market or you already live here and want to actually own a piece of it, by reaching out to me on Instagram at Arjun Mortgage. I answer all of my DMs personally and would be more than happy and honored to assist you in any way that I can. So let's get into today's important video. In the wake of the Great Economic Collapse or Great Recession of 2008, the CFPB was created in 2011, the Consumer Financial Protection Board. Now, this was put into place to help create the right amount of oversight to protect consumers from predatory lending, which took place in large part during the run-up to the 2008 market crash. Now, I was part of that market crash because I worked in the mortgage industry and I saw the kinds of loan products that were out there. I saw the lack of safeguards or even qualification that was required to get some of these mortgage products. It was literally the wild, wild west. Now, with this potential shakeup, or proposed shakeup or dismantling of the CFPB, a lot of people are being triggered by this, including the media, in thinking that we are somehow going to go back to 2008 times and that it's going to be the Wild West all over again, leaving people saddled with all kinds of debt that they can't manage at completely crazy or outrageous interest rates, or homeless on the side of the streets. I mean, a lot of negative pictures and doom loops are being created out there. Now, most of it is just for sensationalizing or to get clicks. But we have to take a step back and understand what's actually happening here and why it's being proposed. It's not that the Trump administration is just trying to take apart everything and leave everyone on the side of the streets. There is actually a tenet of this administration, which has been very clear since day one, that they want to trim the fat. They want to eliminate lots of red tape and regulations and things that actually raise costs to make things easier. Now, you can argue with it on either side, but the intention is pure and good. And for those of us that are in housing, some of this could be actually quite welcomed. Now, here in San Francisco, I think in a market that already is saddled with layer upon layers of regulations and all kinds of red tape and encumbrances, that news like this would be actually quite refreshing because it would alleviate a lot of concerns and actually ease so much pressure that is keeping home prices and rental rates propped up so much for so long. So first, let's get into what are two potential positive impacts from the CFPB, again, either being completely dismantled or shaken up and dialed back significantly. The first is increased flexibility. Now, a lot of people argue that reducing regulatory oversight would lead to more flexibility in lending standards, which would expand the marketplace or offer consumers more choices and more access, particularly to mortgage products. This obviously would be a great thing because anything that is more inclusive for the marketplace and giving them access to capital to be able to buy hard assets such as real estate is a positive thing, not only for the overall economy, but it's in line with the American dream. Second, and vitally as important, is cost reduction, because with cost savings as a result of so many regulations being pulled back and red tape or departments that are unnecessary and being taken back, you get cost savings. And many lenders, in fact, probably most all of them, will pass those cost savings on to their actual consumers because they want them to win, they want to gain more market share this way, and they end up ultimately being good stewards of the overall US economy. So those are two of many positive impacts, but I want to keep it very simple and easy to understand here for our viewers on YouTube. Now let's get into the negative, which everyone likes to dwell on. And again, this is what is being sensationalized in the media and ultimately leading to a lot of doom loops of people asking the questions, is this going to be a return of 2008? Are we going to see a major economic and housing market collapse? Now, nobody has a crystal ball, but I'd like to pump the brakes on that. But before I do, let's get into what these negatives actually are. So first, and most obviously, it's the consumer protections side of things. Without the CFPB being in place to help safeguard and protect everyday consumers from predatory lending practices, there's a fear that we could have the return of that and that people would be taken advantage of. They're not going to be clear in understanding what it is that they're signing up for or applying for in the way of debt, and just basically an overall lack or reduced amount of transparency. The second thing, and this is very vital, are market stability concerns. Stricter oversight means more market stability. And if we dial back that oversight, that means that things start to get into more of a boom and bust type of economy. There's more volatility, less predictability, and particularly here in the Bay Area where housing prices have already been high, the last thing we need is less predictability over that. So understanding these positive and negative effects, and again, there are many more, but for purposes of this video and for introducing this topic, I want to keep it simple and kind of stick to the main headline core issues. But again, the understanding of this is very important for all of us because here in the Bay Area housing market, which is its own unique animal that is dealing with elevated mortgage rates, a lot of costly regulations that are already in place, unique property types that are sometimes very difficult to actually finance, and is severely constrained when it comes to inventory, with not a lot of options to be able to build out. You've got a very unique marketplace. So the dismantling or shaking up of the CFPB would have immediate impacts right here in the San Francisco Bay Area market. My personal feeling is that dialing back a lot of these regulations and things that are adding costs are only going to be helpful to the marketplace. And for the last point that we're going to make in this video, the fears that everyone has of there being no oversight or regulation are actually being exaggerated because there are already several boards that have been in place, many of them for a very long time, since the beginning of banking here in the United States. And they're already doing their job without the added layer on top of the CFPB. And the reality is that if many of these institutions or groups or boards were just empowered a little bit more, refined, cleaned up, given more resources, whatever it might be, they could actually do their job more effectively, and the CFPB may not even need to exist. So here are a few of them. First is TILA, otherwise known as Truth in Lending Act. Now this was created so that lenders had to provide complete transparency on loan terms, costs, and programs to consumers. Next is RESPA, which is widely heard of and known. RESPA regulates how mortgage loans are actually being serviced, but also eliminates kickbacks or all kinds of shady lending practices and really brings about full and maximum transparency to both sides of the transaction. Next is something everyone's heard of and seen signs for in every banking institution, and that is the FDIC. The FDIC regulates and controls how fair lending practices are conducted and instituted by all of these institutions. And again, this has operated quite well over the last several decades. Next, enforcing laws against deceptive mortgage practices is the Federal Trade Commission, or the FTC. And last but not least is the FHA and HUD. Both of them set lending practices for all government-backed loans, enforcing fair housing laws, and creating access to more of a dynamic range of consumers that are out there in the US marketplace to gain access to housing. So again, we've got a lot of these boards and bodies that are actually in place that were doing the job of what the CFPB was kind of there to oversee and manage. But it was a bit of micromanaging, and I think that's the way the Trump administration truly views this, because if there are ways to eliminate costs and peel back red tape and regulations, passing all of that on to the consumers, expanding the product line of available financial services and products so that consumers have more to choose from, then it's a great thing, because more choice equals a stronger market from a consumer standpoint. And it will help alleviate cost and price pressures. So personally, I see a lot more upside than downside from this shakeup. But what do you guys think? Drop me a comment in this video thread below and let me know what you guys think. Does the CFPB need to be completely abolished? Should it just be dialed back? Should it be expanded? Should we give it more? Should we make it even fatter? Should we add another layer on top? Let me know your guys' thoughts, because all of this is a great discussion for us to continue having. I'm going to continue to report back on this very channel for you guys as it unfolds here in 2025, and ultimately what the fallout or the impact is in a positive way for the housing market here in San Francisco. But I think if you are in this particular market, whether you're looking to break into it and move to the Bay Area, or you're already here, all of these things for a market that has been very constrained by a lot of regulations, excessive costs, layers upon layers of departments to get anything cleared, to build anything, even to put an ADU in your backyard, this would be very, very welcome news. So I appreciate you guys watching. I will continue to report back to you guys, and thanks for watching. See you on the next video.